I look at it and I can't help but think, and I know this sometimes goes down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theory, and that's not the intention in this. But when we look at the decisions that are being made and the numbers kind of show or shine a light on what's really happening when it comes to the fact, to your point, public service or public sector is growing, self-employed small business owners are actually shrinking, they're trending down. Do you think that there's some intentionality around the fact that shutting down small business or shutting down, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, it almost seems like it would have to be intentional, but I'm probably missing something there too. I just don't see the growth in that. And when we look at SMEs overall, it's getting more and more difficult. And certainly, even with the shift in banking and interest rates, they don't want to capitalize their business. Then we got tax consequences that they're now paying and struggling with. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that? I'm just kind of a broad overview of that. I really look at it and I go, we're just not a entrepreneur-friendly country. And I've seen the difference. Let me share with you is that although I call myself bi-provincial, I born and raised in Alberta. I've got businesses that I still have in Edmonton. I live in both Edmonton and British Columbia. I'm here in the Fraser Valley. I hang out. We got a beautiful property, 5 acres outside of Abbotsford. And the reason I share that only is that when I came to BC originally about a dozen years ago and started spending time here, I saw what was happening in Abbotsford. And Abbotsford had this really tough, not business-friendly attitude. That changed when the mayor of Abbotsford back then changed to Henry Braun. Henry Braun was himself a very successful business guy. Beyond, he ran a I want to say the business was $700-800 million a year, plus a very successful cattle ranch. My point is that very business savvy, numbers aside. He literally put Abbotsford on the map in terms of its business friendliness. He expanded the airport. He drove, people to that airport. He brought business in, and it really changed Abbotsford as a city. And it was very, very impactful. We're not doing that as a country, let alone some of the smaller cities. I see it in Calgary, seem to be far more entrepreneurial in terms of their friendliness. But how do you see it? You're in the business, you're looking at mortgage applications, you're seeing how people are. Like, you've got a little bit of a background on some of this stuff, I think, enough to form an opinion. What's your thoughts?
Well, it's true. We see a ton of applications. We see a ton of income types. We see, it gives us a bit of a cross-section of Canadian employment. Let me speak to one question first. I'm a big, big believer that you should never chalk anything up to a conspiracy that can be explained by general ignorance.
By stupidity. Okay, yes, got it.
I've been very lucky. I'm very lucky to make a friend of a person in the political consulting world. His name's David Hurley. Got a couple of great podcasts, Curse of Politics and the Hurley Burley. And I've been a devoted listener for years now and a bit of a friend of David's. And what you learn is that it's not that they're trying to hurt anyone. They just have a political agenda to attract a certain group of votes. We've got a country where you get to run the country on about 36.5% of the vote. Okay, you get to be the prime minister on that basis. So you just have to attract the people who are in your base, encroach a little bit on some of the other folks, and you get to be the PM. You get to run the country. And if the folks that you're after want to hear about a certain agenda, then you're going to have to keep going on that agenda. That's what got you there. That's what brought you to the dance. You got to keep dancing. So it's not necessarily, although I don't completely disagree with some of the failings of the current leadership of the country, I do think that in essence, almost all of these people, probably a decent majority of the people who are in leadership and in politics today or become members of parliament or members of the legislature, they actually want to do good. They don't want to do bad. Don't get me wrong, there's a few who are just feathering their nest. 100% that exists. You and I know that exists. That's available. but the vast majority of them want to do good. They just get caught up in the politics. Like, if you're Justin Trudeau, it's very hard for you to say, yeah, we need to cut departments in government. I mean, we need to just lean it out. We need to lay people off. It's very hard to say, yeah, I'm so pro-nuclear, I want to build 10, I want to start construction of 10 plants next year in Canada. You're just not, it's the politics don't work. So is it necessarily that they're bad people? There's a few bad ones. Yes, I've known a few bad politicians in my day. People who are just in it to extract money from the system. But a lot of people just believe in what they're doing. But to get elected, they have to promote a particular brand of thinking and appeal to the base of voters. So I don't really subscribe to the fact that some of these people are. I don't really believe anybody's a lizard person, that you're just going to peel back the zipper on the back of their heads and the lizard's going to pop out to eat children. But I do believe that you could end up going down a completely wrong path. You know, when you talked about Germany a few minutes ago, it's just a shocking state of affairs. Germany has disintegrated billions and billions and billions of dollars on wind and solar that has come nowhere near their requirements for power. Not even close to their requirements for energy. And the shutting down of the nuclear plants in the face of a loss of Russian natural gas, it's frankly crazy. It's political insanity, and it makes no sense. So, yes, can politics lead you down the wrong road? Absolutely it can. Do I think that they're all bad people? Probably not. Do I think that there's a conspiracy? Nope. General dumbness will put you through every time, as opposed to...
Yeah, you know, and I think that's a good point. It is true. It is true, right? I think that in general, people are they're well-intended, except for they're ill-informed and ill-educated. They lack a level of competency. So, you know, it's hard.
I got to say this. They can actually be pretty smart. But when you get into politics and you win the job, you want to hold on to it. So you end up having to go down policy rabbit holes that you might not even believe in yourself. That you might realize, hey, I think I need to make a big change, but I can't because my voters want it and I want to keep getting elected.
It's politics, so that makes it the politics over policy mantra that they all kind of tend to lean on, and I get it. You know, I look at it though, and you know, I like you. I think what I come to the conclusion around this whole, you know, just to finish up on the brief comment of conspiracy, is I think people go to conspiracy because it's just hard to believe that anybody can be that dumb or that ill-informed or just that incompetent. But that's what we're facing. So, you know, one of my own philosophies when I look at Justin is that, you know, as a trust funder, I come to realize, I was thinking about it, and here's my own philosophy on it, is that he was born a trust funder. He's never had to pay a bill. He's probably had to sign a check, but he's never had to write one. He's never had to balance a budget. It was spend, don't spend so much. Okay, mom, I won't spend so much. Like, there's no competence. Compare that to the mayor of Abbotsford, for example, who ran businesses, who understands budget, who understands leadership and people. And, you know, it's like 180 degrees from a leader such as our current prime minister. And yet we are at the effect of the bullshit and the gaslighting and the lying. And I'm looking at it going, how is this even possible? How did we get here? Now, back to an earlier conversation, Ron, is that you and I have both been through cycles of, you know, economic cycles. We've been through lots of politicians. What the hell's different this time? Is it because it's global? Is it because social media is more there? Why is it so, like, it seems such a urgent, dynamic, on the edge time in this world politically? And let's just even talk strictly Canada, forget about what's going on in the rest of the world. Is it always been this bad and we just didn't know it? Or is it just kind of on steroids these days? What's your thoughts?
This changed everything. This changed it. Social media has changed the way we live because it has allowed people to exist in an even more tribal form than we ever imagined. That's just the truth. I mean, you can have the strangest, kookiest, most dangerous ideas in the world, And 20 years ago, if you started talking about it, people in a workplace, people at a party would say, don't say that anymore. That's crazy. Okay. But today, you can find a community of people who believe exactly the same way you do.
Yeah.
And, that just didn't exist. Sad point, talked to, world's opening up again. We're traveling again. We're seeing people again. We're going to conventions again. I was in a get together in Austin, Texas, talking to a bunch of mortgage brokers. I'm old. A lot of them are only in their 40s, so they've got young children, and they were related. An enormous number of them related to me, how their teenagers and early 20-year-olds had anxiety that required therapy and medication, like a steep number, a large number. And the only reason that I could possibly see behind that is the rise of social media. Because let's face it, nobody's deeper in their phone than a teenager. That's just reality. So yes, is there something really different than when we were younger? Yeah, it's social media. Social media is the most impactful thing that's has occurred in the last 15 years. It is a big, big thing because people can be completely atomized and tribalized and find, no matter how odd the idea, no matter how strange the thought, you can find a community of like-minded people. And what it also means is the death of authority. I mean, you're probably old enough to remember a guy by the name of Walter Cronkite.
Oh, yes, I am.
Yeah, Walter Cronkite, when I was a kid, when Walter Cronkite decided that the Vietnam War was bad, the president of the United States, and he said it on the air, the president, he's a reporter, he's an announcer, he's a news announcer, okay? When he said it on the air, the president of the United States, Lyndon Johnson, gave up and said, we're going to have to end this war. Because if Walter Cronkite's against me, we're finished. So there is no central authority anymore. Authority is, there's no honest voice of reason anymore. Because there just isn't. There's tribes. And that's a dangerous place for every society. So some of the things we're seeing today are the result of that. Some of the things we're seeing today are the result of a profound shift. You and I could make a case that we were born with a genetic jackpot. We are relatively large white males in North America. And we started out being born in the 1950s, and the world was our oyster. The world was laid out to help us and to provide a great opportunity for us. As Warren Buffett says it best, he says, I won the genetic lottery, okay? A 6'2" white heterosexual man born in America at a time of enormous growing prosperity. So yeah, we were lucky. We had a great start. But the truth is today, a lot of people don't feel the same way. A lot of people in their 20s and 30s just don't feel that. They feel that things are against them. And one of the primary things, and why I talk about it all the time, is that if you're 20, 30 years old, if you're 25, 35 years old, and you were raised in a house with a yard, a single-family detached house with a yard and a two-car garage or even a one-car garage, and that was what you were raised in and what your expectation was, when you've reached a point now that you would simply like the same thing, and you're confronted with the notion that it's impossible, you're going to have to live in a 575 square foot condo for the rest of your natural life. When you're confronted with that, it just might sour your disposition and make you a little bit negative on life. So those are some of the things I think about, frankly, daily, as some of the problems we're faced with right now.